What is up, funding business owners? I just got off of a call and they had excellent questions about the numbers regarding the funding sales system. So today we're going to be sharing my screen over here, going over all the financial KPIs that you need to hit to make the system profitable for you. Don't get me wrong, this is not for everybody because it does take some responsibility on the client's part, on your guys' part. Because in order for the system to truly work, in which case it does, is to be able to track it. Because otherwise, the only way that you can really optimize the ads is based upon, cost per lead. And that doesn't necessarily mean more money in your pocket. So what we do to track the ads is we run all of our optimizations and we manage your ad solely based upon actual revenue that's driven your business, ROAS, return on ad spend, or lead quality. So this is the rundown of the system. And this is why we need 3 months because we cannot promise no miracles. This is how it's going to run. So on the left-hand side over here, I got expectations, okay? On the right side over here, I got the actual financial modeling to bring you a consistent deals, guys. This is not a miracle over here, but this is a system to consistently bring you in more funding deals with predictability. So take a look at this. We have two things over here. We got the funding call funnel and we got MCA. The real difference over here is that MCA is it's a little bit more generous, it's a little bit easier to get people approved. They just need revenue over here. Whereas over here in the funding call funnel, over here in the funding call funnel, you got to make sure that they have above a 680, 700 credit score, no derogatories, really, preferably no more than one or two derogatories. And they also have to have a 10K credit card history. Over here at MCA, they really just got to be making more than 10K a month and got to have at least, an LLC. And that's representative on the data over here with the bad fit, no offer over here. So let me just break this down over here so that we all understand over here. And it saves me a lot of questions on my calls. So let's go. Let's rock. So if you want to achieve, around $50,000 every single month over here, you should expect to spend around 10 grand to bring you in around 46. This is how the system works over here. We're first going to go over funding and then we're going to go over the MCA and how everything works. The average cost over here per call is around 50 bucks. With the understanding that the first month over here, around week 3, week 2, the calls will be around 60 to $80, but we then optimize them down. So you should expect it to be 50, but don't get me wrong, we have some campaigns that are absolutely crushing it. For example, over here, this is a $23 per call over here. That's incredible. So that does optimize down, but it's only optimized down in time. So it does take some time to be able to optimize that down. And we'll go over that in the expectation section over here. From there, we should expect around a 70% show up rate. On our thank you pages, we have a system that we've been building out for the past 7 years. It's really built out very well to ensure that people actually show up and also don't price shop. So we have a pretty extensive thank you page. It's the page after they schedule a call with you and they pre-qualify that ensures that they're not price shopping because they're provided value immediately. They watch your video, they add it to Google and iCalendar, they make sure that they confirm the call, and of course they have those value. They have a couple of freebies in their hand to be able to read through a couple of downloadable free PDFs to read through to provide value so that they ultimately don't go to somebody else. What we found is that by being able to provide them value within through a free PDF that they can take and they can look at themselves, that added value builds trust and it really stops them from going to other people. Because you better believe that these people that are clicking on your funding ads, they're getting bombarded with funding ads. And especially in a very highly competitive niche over here, like our funding niche over here, where we're quite literally competing against major banking corporations with unlimited budgets, we want to make sure that the leads that we do get stay with us, are pre-qualified, and actually show up to your sales calls, to your discovery calls. We want to make sure you're making money because when you get paid, I get paid more. Sweet, let's rock. So around 70% over here. Now you should expect around 60% of those calls to really be not, well, 60% of the people coming in pre-qualified to not be a good fit. What I consider as not a good fit as those people that pre-qualify, but ultimately, not everybody on that pre-qualification survey isn't really going to tell the right info. Sometimes people might say on the pre-qualification survey that they have a 680, 700 credit score, but in reality, and this is maybe just because they don't know or whatever the excuse might be, each people might have a little bit less. 10K credit card history is required to get funded, but sometimes when they put that in actuality, it might be a little bit less. or in actuality, you know, so it's either, or in actuality, they might have a couple of derogatories. So 60% of them we really can't make deals with. Of course, doesn't count some of them into some sort of credit pair or funding prep service. This is just all front end stuff over here. So total realistic deals that can be made is around 56 deals. And expect at least a 10% closing rate. Don't get me wrong, I do got some killers. Like for example, Colton, he's closing at 3 out of every 8 deals. He's doing really, really phenomenal right now. But I'm not expecting everybody to be a killer closer right at the back. Obviously, as you get more closes in, you're only gonna get better. But Colton is absolutely crushing it. Let's continue over here. So expect at least a 10% closing rate, meaning that at least 5 deals that are made based upon there. Now the average funding amount is around, 50,000 to all the way up to 250K, meaning that you could make 5 grand, you can make 10 grand off 100K, or you can make 25 grand off of a 250K funding deal. But let's say that the average funding deal is around $100,000, meaning that you make around 10% of the back end, meaning that you make $10,000 per close. Boom, right over there. Now, the average cost per close that I've seen is around the $1,000 range. Don't get me wrong, you got people that are really, really good at closing. If they're really, really good at closing, the cost per acquisition then goes down. So like, let's say they're closing 3 out of every 10. And obviously over here, the cost per close goes down. On average, what I see is that the cost per close is more so like this, honestly. It's more so around that $700 going as far as even $1,200. But if we're to keep it realistic again, boom, let's make sure it's 10%, and you're still making a solid 4 ROAS, and the cost per close is around $1,700. So $1,800 all the way up to 2K is what you should expect to close a funding deal. And now let me put this out there as well too. We're not expecting miracles. We do make sure that you have at least 3 months up front because we don't want to promise miracles. You should expect to be able to spend at least 3 times the amount that you are to acquire a client to be able to build out the system. So what that really means is that if you want to acquire a funding deal for around $1,000, you got to expect to spend at least 3 times the amount that you want to acquire that client for. We call that CAC, cost per acquisition. So if it's $1,000, you want to have a budget set up to at least 3 to 4 grand, 3 to 4x the amount they want to acquire a client for, just to make sure that you build up the system before it really starts, closing deals for you consistently. Over here, we know we're not a short-term run here. This is a long-term game. It's a sales system that we're building out that you can put out an ask over there consistently bringing new clients for every single $1,000 you spend on average. But let's continue. Great. So over here, boom, boom, boom. Cost per close, $1,700, profit around 46K over here. Now, let me go over onto the MCA over here before I really get into some expectations over here. But I want to make this understood over here because there's 2 different types of funding ads over here. In which case, funding over here, call funnel, I find that these are a little bit, I find that these people over here are generally, there's a higher chances of a bad fit over here because we got to qualify and be specific for 3 things, credit score, credit history, and then of course, clean credit, no more than 1 or 2 derogatories on here. Whereas over here, realistically, they just got to be making more than 10K in their business, but it is going to be a lower value per close. The ROAS over here are just about, kind of the same over here. You're still profiting, you're still in the green, but let me break this down a little bit. So over here, let's say that we want to make an extra, I don't know, let's say we want to make an extra 50K over here per month. Boom, 50 grand over here, 23 over here. So we're gonna have to add a couple more leads onto here. So let's double that. Boom, boom, boom. That's almost 50K over here. Let's keep it here just for numbers, easy sake. So total spend on ads around 12 grand. Total calls we bring in is around 400 calls per month. Cost per call is around $30. Now, MCA, the cost per call is a lot lower on this. Again, when you first launch these ads, the cost per call over here might be $60, whereas over here for this one, it might be high as $80 over here. Over here, what I usually see is these are coming in around $60 when you first start. The first week or 2 of launching the ads, or week 3 of this actual entire program over here. Great. Show up rate is still the same, it's around 70%. Amount showed makes it 280 over here. Bad fit, no offer. So like I was saying, because really there is only one thing that you need to qualify for, in which case, hey, these guys had to be making at least 10 grand a month in their business to be able to get, funding ready for the MCA loan over here. What that means is that the bad fit no offer score is going to be significantly less than on the left-hand side over here. Almost half the one on the funding call fund over here. Boom. And what that really ends up happening is that 196 deals that can be made over here, closing again 10%. Like I said before, we do have people that are absolutely freaking killers over here that are closing a lot better. Like, let me give you an example over here. Colton over here, he's crushing it. Credit per. Let me pull this up. Where are you? Here we go. Cool. So, like, for example, like this, I just put up a quick screenshot over here. Like I said, so people do close higher than just the 10%. That's perfectly capable. There are plenty of people that are doing it. Colton, Mo, Gary, people like that are doing exceptionally well at closing deals like that. But we want to make sure that things are realistic. I don't want to promise anybody a miracle over here. So we always make sure that it's around 10%. The average really is like 25% between all my clients, but I want to keep it down low, 10%, just to keep everything super, super realistic, super, super moderate, so that you have solid numbers over here. Deals are going to be closed around 19.6, so the total value and average in MCA is around 3K over here. That's at least what I've seen with my clients. Again, every business is different, but it's okay. We just got to work the numbers over here. Revenue closed, boom, cost will close around 600 bucks, making around 46K at the very end. This is a pretty accurate representation of what's actually going on with my clients right now. Like, literally right now. We are spending tens of thousands of dollars every single day. And these are our expectations, our KPIs based upon that understanding. Now let's go into the actual expectations over here on the left-hand side so that we can understand what really goes on in this process. Because again, this is a process and we do want to make sure that you're fully ready to be able to, take on those 3 months, and you know what's going on. So everything, first of all, before we really get into it, everything here is done on our Notion. So you're going to be able to see actually what is going on as it's done with screenshots of updates as well. The screenshots of updates replace into Notion. You have a little timeline bar called the battlefield, and it shows exactly when things are being done. And with screenshots. Of course, those screenshots are also thrown into your membership onto Discord, so you can actively see when things are happening. And as well, too, if you ever need to hop on calls with us, if anything might be confusing, I want to make you more money because when I do, I get paid more. So no hesitation, hop on a call with me. I'm happy. But let's go back into these expectations before I get too off track. So week one, really, we are setting up funnels and ads. I say that the set up the funnels and the ads takes about a week, but in actuality, it takes around 72 hours. It's just sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get media and graphics back and from you. Going on to that media and graphic side, we do expect you guys to take a couple of pictures and a couple of videos. Now, what that really means is that we have a bunch of scripts that are already actually performing. Oops. So we have a bunch of scripts and video ads that are already performing that we are just going to take and we're going to give over to you. We use a specialized ChatGPT marketing brain over here that also helps with our scripts and also helps with all of our copy. What this really is accumulation of over 7 years of sales call data condensed into this marketing brain. In addition to that, it has a bunch of Reddit and Quora frequently asked questions plugged into here, objections plugged into here, ads that are working and funnels that are working, all those are plugged into here. And what this creates is a super, super high targeted copy that goes exactly to people that are financially capable and motivated enough to get started today, not tomorrow. We want to make sure that we give you as much of the layup as possible so you have the best chances of closing deals so we can all make a mas moolah. So this is our funding marketing brand. You can use this for the copy, you can use it for the scripts. We are going to give you the scripts because what's the point of really just reinventing the wheel when you already have something that's already converting? So the actual scripts that we have and the ads, we're going to make sure you have all those so you can get rocking and rolling as soon as possible. We're going to split test between graphics and video ads because sometimes, video ads perform better than graphics and sometimes the other way around as well too. So of course you want to make sure you split test that. And like I said, I do always put over here that it takes about a week to set up the ads because it just takes some time to get media back and forth from each other. We build out everything in a very, very simple way as well too, on your go high level or on our go high level. If it's on our go high level, it's a faster turnaround times. If it's on your go high level, we have an SOP with a checklist of all the nurture campaigns that you need and all the funnel steps that you also need and everything that you need on the thank you page. That thank you page we create for you, the automations. If you're missing anything from that checklist that we have, we take our snapshot and import it into you because we want to make sure again, you have the best chances of success. Things like an appointment reminder value add campaign is often unheard of, but we want to make sure that's added onto there. That shoots emails out every 2 hours, providing value, providing freebies that people can just download so that they not price shop and make sure that they're excited to hop on a call with you, nobody else. So all those things need to be in place before we launch, and that usually takes around a week for us, for our team to be able to implement it into your account or for us to get media back, or for whatever we need to do to make sure that that's fully set up and ready to launch so you have no issue scaling. And don't get me wrong, guys, not promising miracles, but because Facebook is just sometimes very, very annoying, sometimes in these calls, we do have to troubleshoot maybe some sort of disabled ad account or whatever it might be. But need not to worry because we do have meta reps on salary to be able to ensure that we have no issues with your meta account. If it's disabled, we can fix it. If your ad account's restricted, we can fix that during the actual onboarding call. Or a meta rep will help us out that we already have in salary. Boom, simple. That's week one over there. Now, what you should expect on your week numero dos is we're actually be starting to launch the ads. Launch the ads and what I call the famous strategy. First, about the ads over here that we launch 3 days thereafter, you should expect your first couple of sales calls. Because those 3 days, the first day it goes to that propagation stage. Second stage goes to like a learning stage. Third day, second or third day, you should have sales calls. I always just say, hey, third day after launching the ads, your first couple of sales calls are going to come in. So expect that. Great. Famous strategy. Yo, Blake, what is the famous strategy? I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I did rip out the famous strategy from Jeremy Haynes. He calls it the hammer strategy. I only ripped it off. It's not really ripping it off from him. He shows it public on his YouTube channel. Jeremy Haynes does an amazing job building out this famous strategy, and it works. And that's why we're using it here. What this famous strategy really is, I usually call it famous strategy. He calls it hammer strategy. I think famous strategy just makes a little bit more sense. The reason what this is a bunch of your videos. Preferably we want like 30 videos. Between the time where they actually click on your ad and they actually sign up or go on that sales call with you, let's say that's a 72-hour period, 2 to 3 days. Between that 2 to 3 days that they click on the ad, between the time where they actually show up on a call with you, those 3 days, we want to make sure we're absolutely hammering the F out of those people with a bunch of your content. So what ends up happening is that through these 3 days, they see a whole bunch of your content and they actually hop on a call with you and they're like, yo, are you famous? I can't stop seeing your freaking content. And really what this type of content is, what's accumulated in this content are common FAQ videos, videos that talk about the process. So if you put people into the Notion board, some sort of onboarding, or what it's like to be a client of yours, we talk about that in the famous strategy. FAQ videos, testimonials, videos where you're just providing value. Whatever we can do to build trust and add more value on this famous strategy to be able to have people hop on a call with you, understand what's going on, understand the process, understand the price, and overall trust you, we're going to add into that famous strategy so you get as much of a layup as possible. Really, is my job as a media buyer is to make sure that you have the best chances of closing deals. So what that really means is that also every lead is going to be tracked. Every lead is going to be tracked and ranked from 1 through 5, 5 being the best. And my job as a media buyer is to give you as many 5s as possible. Great. But again, you're also going to make sure every lead that comes in, you're going to want to mark as good fit or bad fit, and you're going to market any type of objections or wins that you might have. I'll go over that in a second. After this, we'll go over that financial tracking sheet as well too. That is very important. We're not shooting in the dark here. We're not optimizing for the lowest cost per lead. We're optimizing for actual money that you're going to generate in your business. That's what works. And anybody that doesn't do with the tracking sheet, I don't know how you run ads. I feel like you're just shooting in the dark at that point, to be honest. But nonetheless, go back into here and then I'll show you over that tracking sheet. Great. So week 2, day 3 over here. Boom. First sales calls come in. Yes, I love that. I love that notification. Yo, Blade, you the best and you on point because we are. We've been doing this for a while. So around week 2, day 3, your first couple sales calls coming in. Boom, boom, boom. And week 4 over here, first couple of deals coming in. Around week 3 over here, you should start seeing those sales calls start to dip down. On the funding call funnel, the first couple of calls might be a little bit higher, maybe around that $70, $80 range. MCA, it's gonna be a little bit lower, more so around that $60 range. But we are gonna make sure we optimize that down. Week four, the first couple of deals come in, you're gonna be really, really happy. You're gonna give me a success story over here. So I'm so on point with this stuff. Month two over here, week one through two, you're gonna get a little more consistent with closing deals over here. You're gonna close your second, maybe even your third deal over here. Month two, week three to four, kind of towards the end of the second month over here is when you're gonna get a lot more consistent, closing maybe towards more so a deal a week. Month three, deals become more consistent. Month three over here, oops, month three, two to four over here, a deal a week, maybe even two to three deals a week, depending on the ad spend, with the understanding of this over here. All this again is moderate numbers over here. We're not trying to promise miracles. We're trying to be realistic and do things by the numbers. Right? We don't make emotional decisions. We make numbers based upon our KPI sheet. And again, that is not for everybody. But that's how I know how to grow your funding business. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel with you guys. Cool. Month four over here. After this, so initially we do require 3 months upfront so that we can make sure they're properly prepared, with expectations to be able to absolutely accomplish all your goals over here. So by month four, after this 3 month cycle over here, building out your sales system, depending by the end of that month, how many deals you're closing, you're doing a deal a week, 2 deals a week, 3 days a week, a deal a day, multiple deals a day, depending on those numbers over here. And of course, as you close more deals, you're going to reallocate back into the budget over here. But with all that understanding, by month three, start of month four, we're going to hop on another call, um, see what's going on, see how much money you've made, see how much money is expended, and come up with a better deal for both of us that works for both of us for a management fee. Boom. Awesome. And now the last thing I do want to show you over here is the actual KPI sheet. And I want to show this here because, again, this is not for everybody. It does require responsibility on your part because we want to make sure that we are actually tracking stuff. We want to make sure that you're making money, and the best way to ensure that you're making money is by tracking. So let me share my screen over here again. Cool. So this is what your tracking sheet looks like. Now, before I kind of get into this, let me make something notice because Go High Level, we are using Go High Level. Go High Level is great and it's amazing. I love Go High Level. I'm using Go High Level all the time. I practice what I preach. The thing is with Go High Level is it does have its downsides. The reason being is because it is an online application. They have a display and then they also have a backend database. So what that really means is that the communication from what you see all the way to the backend database, sometimes it can lag the system. And there's even days when they push updates where Go High Level is completely just gone. You can't log into Go High Level. And sometimes it's days, sometimes it can be hours. But what I'm trying to say is that we don't really know. All right, part of interruption. What I was trying to say is that Go High Level sometimes can lag, so I don't want to mess up your cash flow. What that means is that if Go High Level is lagging and you're expecting a couple of calls or you want to hustle out the list and make some money, screw that. I don't want to screw up your cash flow. So everything will synonymously be synced with Go High Level all the way over to here. So that means everything that's in this Excel sheet over here will also be on Go High Level. Everything on Go High Level will also be on here. And what I'm expecting of you guys is to be able to fill out what's in green and what's in white. So check this out. What's in gray over here, day created ad ID, the actual ad ID that we're running so that when you see, hey, 5 lead quality score over here, good fits, hey, I'm making money over here, full pay, great, great, great. I want to know what ad is bringing this. Ad one, oops, three, and ad two, whatever. Let's say we have 3 ads out there. I want to know which ad is making you more money. In order to do this, we need to track the actual contact that closes to which ad it represents so that we can push that ad it represents, push the budget on there, trim the budget on the ones that are not performing. I feel like that kind of just makes sense. Great. Cool. So this is what you should expect over here is over here in gray will automatically pre-populate based upon your Go High Level and upon and on the ad ID. Over here, what's in blue, credit score, monthly revenue, yearly rev, credit card limit, how much you want on funding. These come in through the application that they submit to qualify them in. Of course, if they are not qualified, it moves them over to funding prep. And with funding prep, it's just pretty much credit consultation, credit discovery call. You sell them onto credit repair, to then later push them into funding. We call it funding prep because it just sounds a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more directional. Great. Funding prep as well too. Sometimes we do get a shit ton of funding prep calls, credit prep consultations. And if you want to limit the amount of credit consultations that you have and just really just push the funding, like we do with Jonathan Cray over here, is you would just charge for the actual credit consultation. Limit the amount of credit consultations, and you also, accumulate a little bit of money, but don't expect that to really accumulate back towards ad spend. It's just to make sure that the people that actually pay that $50 consultation for the credit consultation fee, actually shows up, they're motivated, and you can upsell them on something further. Because people that pay you initially, it's a lot easier to sell them on something bigger once they already paid you because they trust you. So we're just charging them, either 20 all up to $50 for that initial 15-minute consultation for you to then give them a game app. Hey, you got to fix your credit, put authorized users, trade lines, etc., and then you can get funded. So that initial credit consultation, the funding prep roadmap call, we charge for that once we see that it's a little bit much for you. Cool. All right, so these are the funding application questions over here. Boom, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, boom, boom. Pipeline stages, new lead, engage, schedule call, missed call, hot, signed up. That's our pipeline and go high level. Very, very simple. But once they schedule a call, it will be populated into here. Once they're in the hot stage, as in, hey, I need to talk to my wife about it, or I need to get paid by the end of the week, whatever it might be, boom, we'll show hot stage over here. Lead quality score. Now over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 questions over here, based upon what they answer, gives you a lead quality score. Again, my job is to give you as many 5s as possible. 1 through 5 gets the average over here. Boom, boom, boom. Divide by the number of questions over here, gets you the average. That's over here. I want to make sure I give you as many 5s as possible. Then what I expect from you guys over here is to mark as good fit or bad fit, signed up, whatever else is in white over here. You don't really need to do this. This kind of helps me if you're running through the list over here really quick. Outcome, objection, cash in hand, and available credit. So good fit or bad fit is also going to be populated in from your go high level. So on the left-hand side, there's going to be something called quality score over here. Let me see if I have one popped up right over here. It's not sharing because I don't want to show any sensitive information. Okay, this looks like a random contact. Let's go in here. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so there's a random contact here, so I can show this. Cool. So take a look at this. Lead quality over here. Good fit or bad fit. And then you got score 1 through 5. The score will automatically pre-populate. What I really need from you is the good fit or bad fit over here. And then as well too, there's gonna be another section over here just saying objections, and the objections will automatically populate into this Excel sheet over here, like we were talking about. The objections or notes will populate into here, whereas the good fit or bad fit will populate into here. These questions that they answer will give them a lead quality score populate into here, and also give you the answer over here of what lead quality score that there would be. So you have on both sides. And what's really, really great about the system is that once they come into here under name, they come in as a hyperlink. And what that really means is that it's a clickable link that takes you directly over to the Go High Level conversation. So if you're using them both, you want to converse with people, conversate with people, whatever the word is, you click on their name and it takes you directly to the Go High Level conversation as long as you're logged in. Simple, very, very simple. Name, email, phone number. Just in case you just want to run through it, just use the KPI sheet, kind of like me. I really like to get using the KPI sheet. I usually use the KPI sheet more than Go High Level, with the extent of just click on the name and it goes back to Go High Level just to see the conversation and maybe some other notes. But data loss contact, you really don't have to fill this out. It just, when I run my call center, this does help me out because if I have people just calling up past leads, I want them to know when they're contacting those people and when they're following up with those people, etc. Again, this one's kind of like optional over here. What's in gray automatically populates. Oops. And what's in green over here is kind of like expectations, what I really need at the very minimal over here. Good fit, bad fit, and signed up. Right over here is kind of like secondary over here. Great. Notes over here. So I need to know the outcome as well too. Full pay, split pay, deposit, etc. Bad fit, no offer, pre-call cancel, show cancel, no show. Objections over here, financial, it's logistical. Spouse, logistical as in they can't get access to money or something like that. Financial, they really just don't have the money onto it. Spouse, hey, I need to talk to my spouse. I don't know if I trust you yet. Objection free. This is what we want ultimately. This is like literally what we want. Signed up, sing up. This is like a perfect score over here. That's what we want. And the worst case scenario, we also need help with understanding like cash in hand and on credit because you want to sell them on to some sort of like, let's say you charge a setup fee over here. If you're charging a setup fee of like $1,000, do they have $1,000? Maybe do they have like 800 bucks on hand? Also available credit. If they don't have cash in hand, do you have a couple of credit cards you can put onto? Can you put them onto some sort of like after payment system like a firm, Klarna, etc.? We just want to know that so that we can further take this sheet and increase the quality based upon what's actually happening in your business, rather than just playing a guessing game or whatever that saying is, throwing spaghetti on a wall and hoping it sticks, whatever that means. That is a weird expression. But cool, guys. Yeah, so this is the entire setup over here, guys. And if you're ready to get started with us, go over to creditrepairmarketing.com. Last things last, I want to show you guys this pipeline over here before we move out over here. By the way, guys, you want to join up with this, creditrepairmarketing.com, or you want to hop on a call with me, creditrepairmarketing.com/schedule. Now, let me show you what the actual pipeline stages will look like so you guys know, because we take a very, very simple approach to this. Simple is what scales, guys. Simple is what scales, truly. Cool. Credit lead all the way up to funding lead over here. So you're going to see over here credit lead, engage, schedule, missed call, hot, and sold. Simple. Look at this over here. Lead, engage, application, onboarding call, schedule call, missed call, hot, sold, not interested. Not interested, just moves over to D&D. How this works over here is that let's go to the credit side, or yeah, we're funding, second funding side. On our funding side over here, funding lead over here, that's where the nurturing happens. All the nurturing happens in that funding lead section. If they reply back, it moves over to engaged. If they submit the application, it does move them back to lead over here to get nurtured. So the only sequences over here, two parts that are getting nurtured is the funding lead and also submit application. The only difference is that if they're just on funding lead, it pushes them over to the application. If they're on submit application, it's just a little bit different nurturing, push them into an onboarding call with you. Once you schedule an onboarding call, we have a couple of things that go out. Schedule an onboarding call. Of course, you got appointment reminders, and of course, you got the value add campaign that we talked about. Missed funding call, very, very vital over here that if they miss a call, you move over to the missed funding call. The reason being is because if they miss a funding call, move over to here, it sends them out a quick email and text message. And then honestly, 30% of the people that miss a call automatically come right back like immediately just by sending them out a quick email or text. Like I'm not even kidding. So this is important if somebody misses a call. Cool. Now funding hot over here, we're just shooting out testimonials. This is like, hey, I like what you got. I might be getting paid by the end of this week, or I want to make a move a little bit later. I got to think about it. I got to talk to my wife about it, etc. Moving to funding hot over here. And what that does, it just follows up them, shooting more testimonials. Hey, check out Jeffrey over here. He just got funded for 50K. Hey, check out Ron over here. He just got funded for 250K for his e-commerce business. Hey, check out Albert over here. He just restocked his shelves, etc. Hey, this person just did their payroll, expanded the payroll, whatever. Because we got them funded. That's what this does over here. Shoots them over testimonials, really bring them back in, move them over to sold, or to hop on another call with you to move on to the next steps, which is sold. Very, very simple, guys. And then, of course, not interested. Then we really have the same setup over here for credit pair as well. But we keep them all on one side so you can see the entire customer journey. So if someone comes in for what we call funding prep over here, they're under lead over here, you push them over to here. Once they're sold, we handle their for credit. Once they're done, they're fulfilled, move them into funding over here, and we get them funded. And so you can see the entire customer journey on one sales pipeline, making it just a lot simpler for us. Of course, you got all the automations to handle the entire client journey from active clients, from new leads all the way to active clients and fulfilled. And then the rest is just really go high level standard stuff. We also have tracking over here to make sure that we're teaching the picks the right way based upon, so the better that we track this stuff over here, the more that's going to increase the quality. That's why we're saying that we need to do everything on a 3-month period over here, because the more that we track, the more that we give information to our excuse me, the more that we give information to our pixel, the more it's going to generate you the more results that you actually want. So throughout that 3 month period, you're really just training out that pixel to bring you out better and better results. And that is what that tracking folder does over here, tracking quality, make sure that all that pixel information is feeded back, all that information for the KPI sheet and goal high levels feed back into the pixel to bring you better and better results. Guys, that is the system. If you want to get started on here, you can always go to creditrepairmarketing.com and get started right away. I want to make you more money because when I do, I get paid more, guys. All right. So let's lock in, guys. I'll talk to you soon. God bless. And I'm excited to run it up with your funding sales system. God bless, guys. Talk to you soon. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I want to make you more money. Peace, guys.